So, Caitlin Clark has had a pretty rough week or so. Obviously, it's been pretty good when it comes to some of the Fever stuff, which she's responded to. And, she retweeted some stuff about the Fever's facility, and the people that hate her were saying, oh, she says she's not on social media and all this stuff. And apparently people were even using the Stalker as some sort of a gotcha, as some sort of a gotcha that she's on social media. She sees that stuff because she saw the Stalker. I'm like, some people are unhinged. And while, the person who I'm talking about right now was not one of those people. This is not a situation like that. But it is one of just the dumbest things I've seen. And it's something that's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And it is the people in the media that no matter what Caitlin Clark does, there is a bit of a problem. And it's freaking Natalie Esquire again. And by the way, again, this is a person who has responded positively to a racial insult about Caitlin Clark online. And while talking about the Stalker situation, what should the conversation be about this whole situation? The main thing that matters, first of all, is that Caitlin Clark is safe and that hopefully the guy gets arrested. That's what the situation should be about. That's the most important thing. The next most important thing is maybe talking about how to protect all the players in the league, how to protect the players in the league. Do you want to know what the least important thing is? Making sure Caitlin speaks out publicly about this. No. Like, imagine that. Like, it is literally, like, these people don't see Caitlin Clark as a human being. And by the way, shout out to Callie Finn in this clip for kind of stopping Natalie Esquire, who I genuinely don't think sees Caitlin Clark as a human being. She doesn't see Caitlin Clark. I don't even think she sees Caitlin Clark as a basketball player, because I'm not going to lie, I have listened to her basketball takes. Like, I don't think her basketball takes are that bad. I don't think Natalie Esquire, when she's talking about the sport of basketball, is that bad. But she very rarely talks about the sport of basketball. Or at least when she talks about the sport, she will say nonsense as well in it. So this is what she's saying about the whole Caitlin Clark thing.
At least, spoke to officials and stuff like that.
This is Callie Finn talking.
And also, I saw,
and it doesn't seem like it was something she wanted to share, which is not a good feeling. Like, we should not be going around having to feel like that, right? But it got to a certain level where she had to, and I'm really glad she did. I don't know if she'll ever speak on this publicly. We know Caitlin really picks and chooses what to speak on and how vocal to be about things.
Like, that is madness. That is genuinely madness. So the whole point is about, this is an awful freaking Stalker situation. This is something that 99% of us don't have to experience. And look, it's not something. Look, I know, Natalie Esquire, 100% with some of the stuff that she has said, has probably had to have she has probably had some absolutely vile things written about her. Because again, considering how much I've had to read written about myself on the internet, and how much I've had to read in DM requests and everything, and emails and stuff, I know, with what Natalie Esquire said, there's no way that this hasn't happened. But that's very different than a Stalker situation. And her basically saying it's oh, well, she just picks and chooses what she wants to speak up on, what she wants to and what she doesn't want to speak up on. It's no, because you want her to speak up on everything. You don't see her as a human being. You genuinely, and maybe I'm wrong. If I am wrong, and not even that it's not if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but there is enough evidence there to back up that claim. There is enough stuff there that sounds like a reasonable argument. I hope it's wrong. I hope I'm wrong with this, and I hope Natalie Esquire isn't as awful a person as she seems online talking about Caitlin Clark. And I hope that this is just being toned out or completely out of touch with this one thing, and maybe again just going a bit too far with things. But it doesn't seem like it. And then immediately after that, Callie Finn comes in.
But I hope she does, because I think it would be really empowering for a lot of women.
I'm sorry, like, demanding, basically implying Caitlin Clark, first of all, she just picks and chooses what she speaks out on. Nobody speaks out on everything. I'm sorry. Nobody's going to go publicly about all this stuff. Why would anyone talk about it publicly? And where was this energy for Paige Beckers? Where was this energy for Paige? Like, because obviously there wasn't that energy, because you can't. Like, you cannot ask victims of this to just be like, oh, I want them to speak out. Like, that's madness. That is absolutely madness. Like, just not from this is nothing to do with basketball, just from a life point of view. Imagine a victim of what is it's felony. It was a felony what the guy was doing. But he had threats on her life. It was a felony. Felony stalking. Imagine saying that. It's like, oh, I wish they would come out publicly and talk about this. Or it's like, no, it's let the dude rot in jail. And it's world news. That's all that matters. Thankfully, Callie Finn comes in and tries to put a stop to Natalie Esquire here.
Yeah, I understand that sentiment. To me, and this is something I've stood on. Like, I don't, like you said, I feel like I've come to understand Caitlin Clark's, like, the way that she, operates and talks about certain things. And this is not something that I expect her to talk about, or like would want her to talk about, because of, like you said, the way that we've seen her kind of avoid stuff like that. And I think that's okay. I think, like,
but it's just like, it's just madness. It's just madness. And like, I don't particularly like Callie's answer there, but at least it's better than bringing up that type of thing. Like, I'm sorry. This is nobody's business. This is not Twitter trolls. This is not like mean people online in Instagram comments. This is like literally somebody who is a victim of felony stalking. Who's like, the guy's gonna end up in jail. I'm sorry, like, just not demanding. Sorry, if I've said the word demand, I do want to apologize. In saying, oh, I wish she should speak up about this. This is not the same crap. Like, people demanded her to speak out about every little thing. People demanded her to speak out about the Dr. Philip Oliver Holes Twitter account. Say what I said just there. Put me on 2 times speed in what I said, because that account was trolling Dejanay and people were demanding her speak out about that account. I'm like, it's crazy. And the worst part is this was, I repeat, this was meant to be a basketball show on NBC. This was a basketball show on NBC where this was said. This was meant to be a basketball show. Imagine how much better NBC would be if they hired, Callie's fine. She's fine. Like her answer, it seemed like she was kind of thrown off a little bit by what Natalie Esquire said. And look, I've got no issues, but it's like, it's been a consistent thing with Esquire where it's like, it's never like, there's never any sympathy shown towards Caitlin in this scenario. It is, how can I use Caitlin Clark, or we use Caitlin Clark to push the narrative we want. No sympathy for Caitlin as a human, ever, from her. And that's in everything. It's in absolutely everything. Because Caitlin Clark, immediately after the Time article, obviously, after the Time article, the idiots like the Whitlocks and those people on that side of the coin. I do think Esquire and Whitlock are two sides of the same coin, basically. The idiots on the Whitlock side, they were going after Caitlin Clark. And then suddenly, Natalie Esquire basically implies Caitlin Clark needs to speak out about those people attacking her. And it's like, no, nobody. Absolutely nobody is required to speak on literally anything they don't want to. Nobody is required to speak on anything. If someone wants to speak on something, cool. If someone doesn't want to speak on something, cool. They are not required to speak on anything. You can prefer whether or not someone should speak on something, especially when it's Natalie Esquire who's pushed every hateful narrative towards her. I was saying she should maybe show some sympathy. But the fact is, she spoke on a situation and didn't show some sympathy. And in fairness, look, she did talk about the greater narrative, the greater narrative of the situation, which obviously is important to talk about, and I'm not going to knock her for that. But through the whole thing, Not one acknowledgement, realistically, of what Caitlin might have gone through. Not one acknowledgement of Caitlin Clark's mental health. Not one acknowledgement of Caitlin Clark as a human. And I genuinely want you guys to see, is if there is any scenario where Natalie Esquire has treated Caitlin Clark like a human this year. Even one. And look, I get it. Basketball players are athletes. When we're talking about basketball, a lot of the time, we talk about them in basketball ways. But there are times where it's like the basketball doesn't matter, and this is a time where the basketball doesn't matter. It's a time where the basketball doesn't matter. The bullshit narratives don't matter. The Twitter trolls don't matter. And yeah, obviously this guy was doing it on Twitter, but there's a very much difference between a Twitter troll just tweeting stuff to try annoy a player versus to try get a reaction versus an unhinged stalker. They're very different things. And they don't matter. All this stuff doesn't matter. All that matters in this scenario is, one, she's safe. Two, that scumbag's locked up for a while. That's all that matters. But obviously for Natalie Esquire, still the whole thing is using Caitlin to push a big narrative. And look, this situation, blowing up big time, has done exactly what she'd want. Caitlin Clark coming out publicly talking about it is just going to probably screw with her. It's just going to screw with herself. But the reality is, as I've said with these people, is they don't actually care about Caitlin. They don't care about what Caitlin's pushing. They want to push a narrative, and if they can break a 22-year-old in the process, that's a good sign. That's what they're trying to do it while breaking a 22-year-old. But anyway, I'll see you guys.